To me, this visit is like no less than going to Tirupati, and it's for a reason. I was telling DG Mr. Reddy that what DDUGKY as a program has done is something which even the private sector, the best private sector organizations in the country, wouldn't have been able to execute. Its implications have been so far and wide that even its creators have no idea where it has gone. And all of you who are playing a part in doing the DDUGKY program are actually doing God's work. So, on that note, I would like to share with you uh, our journey. And through the journey, the narrative is not important. I think what is important is if there is something that resonates with you, in some way gives you an idea, and you are able to either take it forward or it becomes an affirmation that you are doing great work, I think my talk would fulfill its purpose. So, skilled in Odisha, what does this mean? We started the Odisha Skill Development Authority in 2016, and the charter from the Honorable Chief Minister was that it's not about skills. You have to shift the conversation from skill to skilled in Odisha. What that does mean is we need to build an aspirational brand that the best skilled people come from the state of Odisha. Now, it is not an egoistic statement. It is actually a statement born out of necessity. What is that necessity? I was explaining in my conversation with Mr. Reddy a little while ago that unlike Andhra Pradesh and Telangana and Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra and NCR, Odisha does not have small and medium enterprises. It has missed the bus. It missed the bus because in undivided Andhra Pradesh, if you are a businessman, you are socially respected. But traditionally in Odisha, we produced IS officers and doctors and engineers. But if you're a businessman, you are the last to get married. Nobody would give their daughter to a businessman. So as a result, there's been a total absence of small and medium enterprises, and worldwide jobs are not created by big companies. Jobs are created by small and medium companies. So when people did not choose to become business people, didn't start businesses, there's a vacuum. So if we do skill development today, this skilled child or young man or woman has to necessarily look for opportunities outside the state. So the moment you go outside the state, skill is a naked thing. You know, if you are a physics graduate, economics graduate, you can hide behind your ignorance. Okay. What I mean by that is, let's say that you are an economics student or a physics student and you got 92% marks. You could still top the class not knowing 8%. But you can't be a 92% welder. You can't be a 92% nurse. Then you have a dead body on your hand. And not only that you need to know your subject 100%, but for an outsider looking at you execute your skill, from an SMO operator to a nurse, it will take less than a second to figure out whether you know your work or you don't know your work. Okay? If a bureaucrat does not know your work, a whole lifetime will go and people will not know. Okay? Right, sir? But a welder, in a millisecond, somebody will say you don't know your work. So given that perspective, when the young man or woman goes outside the state, will have to compete with the best people of the country. The kid from Telangana and Maharashtra and Uttar Pradesh and Chhattisgarh are all competing when they come to Hyderabad for a job. So given that hyper-competitive environment, we have to build a brand that precedes their arrival. DDUGKY is one of the best branded ideas that the country has ever seen. Okay. So DDUGKY brand was created so that the brand arrives before the trainee arrives. We are basically emulating your great work. So we said we'll build a brand that will give air cover to our people. So that is the idea of Skilled in Odisha. Now, what does this mean specifically? It means three things. Number one, in the short term, in a 3-year period, it means that corporate India should hire from Odisha, should make a beeline to lock in talent. The idea of lock in talent is usually for MBA colleges and for engineering colleges. We are saying when you run an ITI or a DDGKY program or a PMKVY program, that center should be locked in by an employer who should say that don't allow these people to appear for any other interview. We'll take the whole batch. So that's the idea of lock-in. The same thing should happen over a 5-year period for global employment. So if somebody in Singapore wants to hire a subsea welder who will go under the water and repair a ship, they should think about Odisha. But it is far from the truth today. People don't even know where Odisha is. Okay. So we are very deeply aware of that disconnect, and our job is to bridge that disconnect. But the third thing is the most important thing. We said that we must become a sandbox for innovation. Like, sir, when we were walking, you stopped me to explain all the innovations that are happening here, because you are so proud of that work, and that's your identity. So it's not enough to do good work. It's not enough to do good work, not enough to excel. It is very important in today's world, whatever work we do, we must pursue innovation. So we want Odisha to be a sandbox for innovation. What does it mean? Is that if somebody has a good idea somewhere, you should come to Odisha to experiment with it, with the idea that if it succeeds, then it can be taken elsewhere. You require certain special conditions for becoming a sandbox for innovation. So that over a period of time, 2 or 3 things we should be able to do, which is worth emulating outside the state. Now you will say, so how does it make sense? If you think of Bangladesh is a country which is as poor or poorer than many Indian states. Yet Bangladesh has given the world the idea of microfinance. Microfinance as an idea did not come from Citibank or JP Morgan Chase or Hong Kong Bank or the greatest economists, Nobel laureates sitting in Harvard and MIT. It came from Bangladesh. So if a poor country like Bangladesh can create a model, we should be in our work be able to create models which will be used elsewhere. That is the ultimate test. We live in a world where reputation is very important. The reputational capital is a form of capital today. So we need to build reputational capital through this third and the most important objective for us. So if this is the game, this is the mission, then how would we go about it? Skill development is an ocean and you can't boil the ocean. So we said in 2016 that we'll do 3 things. Only 3 things. The job of leadership is to simplify things. Only when you simplify things, reduce things to not more than 2 or 3 things that people can remember. And only when you remember something, you can follow. So we said our starting point is we'll simplify this whole huge ocean called skill development. And we'll do only 3 things. First and foremost, we'll fix the government ITIs. We'll fix the ITI. The second thing we'll do is we'll scale up short-term skill development and read DDUGKY there. There are many skill development programs of Government of India, but I have no hesitation to admit that the flagship program is DDUGKY. The third thing we said is we'll accelerate the setting up of 8 advanced skill training institutes, ASTIs, which would be finishing schools, and for that we needed to take an ADB loan of about 1400 crores to set up 8 super larger than life advanced skill training institutes. You know, in life, when you start on a journey, many things will go right and many things will not go right. So you have to make, on course correction. So the first two things have worked out beautifully. The third thing, we actually ran into problems. And I'll explain to you how we actually fixed that as it ran into problems. So the first two, the results have exceeded our expectations. The last one didn't take off. Now, what I'll do is in my presentation, I will now tell you about how we went about fixing the ITIs, how we are going about scaling the short-term skill development programs, and what we did about the program that never took off. So, when we said we'll fix the ITI, what does it really mean? 2016, when I went from one ITI to another ITI to another ITI, they would very proudly tell me that we have 16 acres of land, we have three-phase power connection, we have so many lathe machines, so many other different, we have generators, this and that. And it occurred to me that they're not taking pride in their alumni. Whether it is an Harvard or IIM, or it is an IIT, or it is an ITI. An educational institution is known only by what it produces in terms of human beings. It's not about the land you have, not about the state-of-the-art machines you have. It occurred to me that people do not know who are the students who come to an ITI. Where do they come from? Where do they go? So we asked every ITI to follow what we call the 10-6-4-2 formula. 10-6-4-2. What it means is each time I go to an ITI, the principal has to tell me 10 names of students that the ITI is proud of. You'll be amazed that ITI and IITs were created around the same time. And somebody told me that India has two I's. One is for IIT and one is for ITI. The IITs have moved forward, the ITIs have moved backward. And India will not be a developed nation unless both the I's of India are equally strong. Only one I is a capital I, the other I is a small I. So we said that you have to tell us about 10 students. You are 50-year-old, 60-year-old, 40 years old, at least 10, 20 years old. So you have to tell us just 10 names out of the thousands names that have been produced by you that you're really proud about. So you go to an IIM and you will hear about a Hall of Fame. So he said, where is the Hall of Fame? For this very simple reason, a kid comes to an ITI at the age of 14, 15, 16. At that age, you and I really did not want to be somebody. Okay? We wanted to be like someone. In the family, there was an elder sister or an elder brother or an aunt or an uncle, or the mother was a role model. And we said, I want to look good like this, elder brother. I want to be smart like this sister. I want to dress up like this aunt. So you always were looking for mental images of role models. Now, why is it that we think at the bottom of the pyramid, children don't need role models? But the kid who comes to a DDUGKY program or an ITI is probably not having a role model. So we told the ITIs that you have to tell us 10 names that you're proud about so that these become role models. So 10 names, out of which 6 you have to tell us about your students who have gone outside the state and are competing and doing well. Which goes back to the point I made earlier, that necessarily our children will have to fight for attention and engagement outside the state. So you have to tell us about which kid has gone to DRDO, which kid is gone into Tata, advanced systems, which kid has gone to, Myco Bosch outside the state. It's very important because we also want attention to the idea of immigration. Odia people by nature don't want to go out. We will find Odias everywhere, but at the same time, the majority want to stay home. And we want to actually deconstruct that and say, look at this boy, look at this girl. So tell us 6 names out of the 10 who have gone outside the state. Then tell us 4 names of girls. The girl child is extremely important to us. So 10, 6, 4. Tell us the names of 4 girls. Because we are in a state, like many other Indian states, where the moment you see a girl, you say equal to sewing machine. We're saying, no, 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 no. Tell us about a girl who has studied welding at your institute. Tell us a girl who has learnt about refrigeration and air conditioning. So tell us about girls who are in hard trades. It was very important because in 2016, the girl child enrollment in ITIs was as low as 6%. And we have said that by 2020, it has to go up to 33%. So 10, 6, 4, and what about the 2? The 2 must be of names of 2 kids who have passed out from an ITI, have not stood in a job queue, but have started a tiny business, tiny small business in the taluk, in the subdivision, where the person has started a puncture shop, that's fine, welding shop, that's fine, but a kid who has started a tiny business. You have to tell us 10, 6, 4, 2. When we said this, the principals and the teachers were baffled. They couldn't answer. The principal would say, sir, I have just come 3 months back. Okay, the standard answer. Somebody else will say, oh, the old teachers are all gone because now it's all contract employment. People do not know who's coming and who's going. But the moment we pressed down on this, to our utter surprise, the role model started coming up. It forced the teachers to know the students. And the starting point was this young lady who we call the princess of our skill development program. Her name is Muni Tiga. So Muni Tiga is a tribal girl from the Sundargarh district. I don't know if there are any Odia people here. Are there any Odia people here? Okay. Please raise your hand with pride. Okay, good. So this girl was from Sundargarh district and born to a tribal father and mother, 8 siblings. The father died very early, and she decided that she has to take charge of the family. To take charge of the family, she needed to take charge of herself. And the best way to take charge of yourself is to learn a skill. So she came to ITI Bargarh, studied for 2 years, joined the Indian Railways, and is a loco pilot now. So she hauls the Shatabdi Express every day from Bhubaneswar to Palasa and brings it back. So people like Munitiga have started coming up, and in every district we go, there is a roster of at least close to 1,000 people like Munitiga that even the collector today knows. The collectors earlier didn't know where the ITI was. The peon had more access to the collector than the ITI principal. But today, the collector, the SP, the district employment officer, education officer, they know where is the ITI, who's the ITI principal, and more importantly, which role model has this ITI produced. The next thing that we did is we looked at the uniform. Hats off to DDUGKY. You people have thought it through. You understood it like nobody else understood. What is that understanding? At 14, we continuously have to go back to our own image at 14. At 14, what was I and what were you? What was your need? At 14, for every boy or girl, there are only 3 needs. Okay. One, the first need and the most important need is to look good. Okay. If I don't, I shouldn't be talking about hair myself, but, if the hair is not right, the kid doesn't want to go to school that day. Right? You'll do like this and then do like this, and you look at your collar, you look at your shirt. So you need to look good. Mother Nature requires you to look good. Second requirement you have is you need to play contact sport because the hormones are kicking in. And the third is you want to eat like a glutton. Okay. So today, even if you give me the best food, it will give me indigestion. But at 14, you want not only you want to get the best food, you want it in quantity, and you want to actually you will do anything to get a good meal. How can we ignore because we are dealing with the bottom of the pyramid? So we said if the uniform is like this, okay, which kid would like to wear this uniform? If my kid goes to an international school, I pay attention to the uniform. But the same me, a policymaker, a senior bureaucrat, I go past and it does not feel to me that there's anything wrong. At least the kid is wearing shirts and pants. What's the big deal? But what about the dupatta? Will this girl be ever able to run a CNC machine? You don't run a CNC machine wearing a dupatta. So what did we do? We went to the National Institute of Fashion Design. We brought them in for the first time in the history of the ITI institution. NIFD, which actually dresses up stars, was brought in to redesign the uniform. And I'm deliberately showing you the girls' uniform because if the girls look good, boys will automatically look good. The third thing that we did is we put the role models, the 10642s, in buses like this, and we made these buses go to every district. I was telling you earlier that the district administration had no idea where ITI is, where DDUGKY, training centers are. When I put those kids, and you can see the role models on the body of the bus, this bus, which was flagged off by the chief minister, not this bus, but many buses like this, each time it would enter a district border, the entire district administration lined up there because it was a great photo op. Okay. The TV crew was there. Okay. The journalists were there. So the collector was at hand, the SP was at hand to receive this bus. And what happened after that? We took the bus to the high school, and there we got all the kids, and the role model comes out, Muni Tiga comes out and says, look at me. If I can do it, you can do it too. So we took this thing called the skill caravan. Again, this is very interesting. I realized early on in my job that the biggest problem that you and I have to deal with are twofold. There are many problems, but the biggest problems are twofold. One, we have to deal with information asymmetry. We think we are communicating. We think that everybody knows where the DDUGKY center is. But you'll be amazed, even the top 10%, top 20% people who matter in a district, of them 90% don't know what is the location of a DDUGKY center and what happens there. So there's a huge amount of information asymmetry. And information is a funny thing. Information, number one, is not transmission. Number two, information in today's world is very fragile. Okay? So you cannot inform enough. We can't create one campaign and sit down. Okay? We have to continuously, in new and different ways, we have to bridge the information gap. The second challenge we have is we have to actually make skills aspirational. Today, skills are not seen as aspirational. So the whole idea of taking the skill caravan was to settle those two things or make a start for those two things. One, we had to bridge the information gap. We went to ITIs, we went to high schools, and the high schools don't know what happens in the ITI. The kids have never gone there. Okay. So what we did is we started programs like Each One Get One. Okay. So each kid in ITI had to bring preferably a girl in 5th or 6th class to the ITI to touch and feel the machines and say, oh, so this is what happens here. So many different ways we have to continuously bridge the information gap. We cannot communicate enough. The next thing that we did is that we picked up 100 ITI principals and sent them off for 14-day training to Singapore. In Singapore, you have something called ITE, which is the Harvard or MIT of skill development. It is considered to be one of the world's topmost places. She picked up 100 of these ITI teachers and educators and sent them to Singapore for 14 days. We didn't want them to go and become experts in Singapore. Our job was to let the district people know that their ITI principal has gone to Singapore. Okay. And you'll be amazed that out of these 100, 90 did not have a passport. Okay. If the principal of an ITI does not have passport as an agenda, okay, why should any kid come to that ITI? So it's not enough. If we want to create a globalized workforce, it's not enough to say, do you have Aadhaar card or not? We have to say, have you thought about applying for a passport? Whether you travel abroad or not, moment you have a passport, it's in your mind. Once something is in your mind, higher chance that it is likely to happen. But the good news is after these 100 people, until date, we have actually sent 215 ITI principals. You see them suited, booted, and fancily dressed, and these are not people they didn't even have a jacket, they didn't have a passport, and the whole place knows that these people have gone. And we have an indirect objective here. By honoring these people, we are honoring the idea of skills. Once these people came back from Singapore, we got them in a room, and for 2 days, we asked them to write down what will be the new mission, vision, and values of the ITI. And these people, in their own words, wrote down a new set of mission, vision, and values. Today, if you go to a ITI, government ITI in Odisha, they will be able to tell you 10, 6, 4, 2, and they'll be able to tell you what is the mission, vision, and values. When we want to bring change, we have to look at change internally, but we also have to induce change from outside. So we wanted change agents. Now, many of you would have heard about Teach for India. It's one of the very aspirational programs where best young people from IT companies, from banks, from different walks of life actually take a sabbatical for 2 years and they go and teach in a government school or a far-flung remote school. So Teach for India was inspired by Teach for America. In the United States, they have similar problems. The government schools, particularly inner city schools where the bottom of the pyramid kind of population live, there are high dropout rates. There's crime, there are drugs. And one reason is that good teachers don't go there. So what Teach for America did, it was a program that was spun off from USAID, that they challenged the best students of America and said, if you are any good, sign up. You will be posted, in a far-flung place, Detroit, Michigan, inner city of Los Angeles, Bronx in New York, and for a period of 2 years, you will get subsistence allowance, minimum allowance, and you will have no assistance. You will have to work inside that school and you will have to make a difference. Today, if you look at the alumni of Teach for America, they're senators, they're chief executives of companies. It's a badge of honor. Same thing has been started in India a few years back for Teach for India, very successful program. And we said we'll have a similar program where we will sponsor or fund fellows. It's like Teach for Odisha to come in. And what we did is we experimented. In government, it is amazing how much experimentation can be done. So to bring in high-class people, how can you afford them unless you pay them reasonably well? Okay. So if you start paying them a higher amount of money, you will interfere with the existing system. So in the first 2 years of pilot, what we did is we got these best people to come in, but instead of the government paying them, we brought philanthropic capital. There are enough money going around the country and many good people looking for a platform. So we said a fellow will be located inside an ITI to add to the ITI's teaching capability, and many things the ITI existing system cannot understand, does not know. So for example, sustainability. Okay. Every skilled individual has a carbon footprint. When a welder welds with this much electrode versus this much electrode, the carbon footprint is here and now. When an air conditioning mechanic works on an air conditioning system, the carbon footprint is here and now. So how do you teach these people sustainability? The existing system cannot do that. How do you teach these people things like, finance 101? How do you teach these people stuff like, total quality management? These people are expected to work in plants where there is Six Sigma in deployment. So for this, we wanted these fellows to be brought in. Once this became a success, then we did the usual, the expression of interest, and we did the competitive bidding. And today, Tata Strive is our partner. You see these teachers dressed in the salwar kameezes and the tucked-in shirts, smart young people who are deployed in the various ITIs, where the job is simple. The ITI teacher does not have the wavelength to be able to do things like, today afternoon, let's bring down some really interesting videos from YouTube and get the kids together and say, let's see how a subsea welding takes place. You have to engage with them. You have to interest them. Or another day you say, okay, so let's do, let's learn about creativity. Let's learn about innovation. Or let's go for a field trip, to a nearby industry. So their job is to augment the intellectual capability and the emotional capability of the ITIs. I told you earlier that, just because these children are from the bottom of the pyramid does not mean that at 14 or 15 or 18, their needs are any different. And one of the needs is, contact sport, because the hormones are kicking in. So for the first time in the history of the state, we had state level state level athletic competition for the skill institutions. This picture is very dear to me and very important to me. If you pay attention, there are two things in this picture. One is the girl contingent right in the front. So this is the story of going from 6% to 33%. But more importantly, you see those people marching behind, the people in the red. That is the Odisha military police band. First time in the history of the state, the Odisha military police band that plays for the governor, plays for Republic Day parade and Independence Day parade, was actually playing for the bottom of the pyramid. And through that, we wanted to send a strong message to the system that these kids are as important as the kids of the best placed people in the state. Then we have to break the gender stereotype. We want to fight tooth and nail a system that thinks girls are equal to soft things. You see that girl in yellow, I call her my canary. Okay? So this girl is actually a smelter operator in Kalinganagar, where the most sophisticated Tata Steel plant is there. So she's the lone smelter operator there. So where liquid iron flows out, she's the one who can shut it down. So our job is to take her from place to place and tell these girls that you are not equal to sewing and you are not equal to making papad and pickles. How many men make papads and pickles? Why there are no men's SHGs doing papad and pickle? The other important thing we are trying to do is to bring in what we call design thinking into skill training. So if you pick up the average engineer in this country today and show that engineer this little device I'm holding in my hand and say, please interpret this as a work of design and tell me what it is all about. Golconda Fort happened in somebody's head first. Faluknama Palace was not created out of AutoCAD drawings. It happened in somebody's head. That somebody who created the Golconda Palace, the the Faluknama Palace in the Golconda Fort, or the person who even made an ox cart, understood design. And design precedes engineering, and engineering precedes skills. So if you look at this, this is the work of a 9th class, 10th class pass out kid who's come into an ITI, and he's made this Harley Davidson motorcycle out of cycle chains, and he's actually being trained to be a welder. But God did not say that he has to have a welder view of himself. This particular institute, after Cyclone Fani, went about collecting mangled telephone poles and electricity poles, and today has created a guitar which is 3 stories high out of that, and that is earning that institute a place in the Guinness Book of World Records. So this kid cannot anymore be relegated to become a welder. We want to make them welder, electrician, plumber, because it suits us as a society. So we tell these people when they come to our home, remove your footwear outside, okay? And we even talk to them in terms of tu or tum, definitely not up. Okay? We never offer them a cup of tea. But for that to happen, we need a transformation in terms of their self-image. And for that, we have to say, no, you may be using welding, but you are not a welder. And a welder is such a precious individual. The moment we make this transformation, this kid will then say, I don't want to be, making window grills. I want to be a subsea welder. And you know how much a subsea welder gets paid in Singapore? Starting salary of 60,000 US dollars. It is welding, but it's subsea welding. A crane operator in Singapore port gets $34,000. So we need to make that transformative journey happen. It may take a long time, but it starts here. Then what we did is we created skill museums. Look at this. This was designed by a top-notch architect. Again, how did we engage a top-notch architect? We said that, we'll bring in philanthropic capital. It doesn't have to go through the tendering process. But once it is designed, the PWD will execute it. So what's the big deal? So every ITI in the state will have a skill museum where a 6th class, 7th class kid can come and say, what is this? How did this get made? Tell me about it. Now let me shift gear to scaling up short-term skill development. We applied the same principles to short-term skill development. We went to skill development centers, whether it's DDUGKY, PMKVY, PLTP programs, and said, tell us about your role models. So look at this girl, her name is Sodamini. She's daughter of a driver in a place, driver in a private company. And this girl studied 10th class, came to CPET. CPET is a central government institution for plastic extrusion technology. So where is this girl today? She is working for Takahata in Nimrana. Takahata is a billion-dollar Japanese plastic manufacturer whose output go into automotive systems. But Takahata is a SDG signatory. What is an SDG signatory? They have signed up on the SDG goals of United Nations, and that means that they will employ at least 50% women on the shop floor. The woman theme keeps coming back to us all the time, all the time. We are fond of our girls. Okay. So she is one of the 50% who will be on the shop floor, but more importantly, Takahata has a principle, being a Japanese company, that the general manager of the plant will be one of these girls one day. So our job is to go and find out where Sodamini is and bring the Sodamini narrative as policy makers. Our job is not just to remain limited to our glass houses. Our job is to bring the true narrative from the field and spread the place with that narrative. This girl today earns about 15,000 rupees, lives in a hostel, and goes to, from the hostel to her place of work in an air-conditioned bus and comes back. And she has a good chance to become general manager of the plant one day. Coming to DDUGKY. Sir, you said that we have been number one state 2 years in a row. That is entirely correct, but actually it's updated now, and we have been 3 years in a row now. Okay, which I tell my people in the state that it is dangerous to be number one state 3 years in a row. That means there's no continuous improvement. So after that, what? And you should not get a 4th year in a row. Okay? You need to redefine what you are doing. So DDUGKY, as I was telling you, to me, is one of the most outstanding government programs in the history of independent India. And I wish, if I were the Prime Minister of the country, I would take the DDUGKY program as the flagship skill development program across ministries. It is so well conceptualized. It's so well designed. It has been done keeping that individual in the center of things, not keeping policy in the center of things, not keeping government intent in the center of things. We have really not only stepped into the shoe of the individual, or rather shoelessness of the individual, but we have gone into the head, gone into the mind. Whoever thought through that you need to be 1/3 domain skilled, 1/3 computer skills, and 1/3 English, the implications of that is intergenerational. That child who comes out of a DDUGKY program is less likely to be battered by her husband, is less likely to feel helpless when she goes to a new place, is less likely to be exploited. So it is not about skill, it is about human transformation. No other program is looking at skill development from the point of view of human transformation as DDUGKY has done, and you need to give yourself a big hand for that. So here is Sumati Naik. So Sumati Naik is a DDUGKY alumni. So Sumati Naik studied up to 10th class in Bhadrak, which is a tiny little district headquarter today in the state of Odisha. But when Sumati Naik was out of a DDUGKY program, she was barely able to speak anything other than Hindi. And today, Sumati Naik, who I met at West Side, Bengaluru, and West Side's flagship store in Bengaluru on Commercial Street, where you can meet her, she speaks fluent English and Kannada. You have given her that self-confidence. And the general manager of West Side, who's a Tata company, took me aside and said, "Sir, watch out for her. This is the girl who will take my job away." In this whole process, our job is also to get employer endorsement. We have to get the employer connect. Because people don't know where Odisha is. Contrary to belief of Odia people, they think that Odisha is the center of the universe because the Lord Jagannath is there. But when it comes to employment, nobody knows where Odisha is. So our job is to get the right kind of employer endorsement. So here you see, TV Narendran from Tata Steel talking about Odia workers. Here you see this lady called Radhika Basu, who is chairman of iMerit. iMerit is a company which uses DDUGKY kind of talent, and they use these people to train machines for machine learning. How do you train a machine for machine learning? As you know, we are talking about artificial intelligence and robotics and Internet of Things. So if a machine has to take a decision like a human being, somebody has to train these machines. So for example, let us say that you are on an intersection and the red light has turned into green and you just started, and a kid, a 3-year-old toddler, runs across. You will not take a millisecond to hit your brake hard and stop the car. But imagine that it's not a toddler, but it is an empty plastic can, this height, the same height as a toddler, being rushed by a gale of wind. You will not brake like that. You will not break that heart. You are able to take that decision. So how do you train a machine to distinguish between a toddler and a plastic can? So that is the kind of things that these people do at iMerit to train machines. You talk about the Google car and the Tesla car and the Apple car, driverless vehicles. These are the people who are training the machines for machine learning. Then we said that when you look at the skill world, you have to look at entrepreneurship. Because as I was telling you earlier, 10, 6, 4, 2, who are the two? But it's very interesting that we create programs, like bank loans and things like that, where this kid will not even be able to enter into a bank, will not be able to speak to the bank manager. We talk about venture capital funding, but there's no venture capital funding equivalent when you come to the bottom of the pyramid. So we started a program called the Nano Unicorn Program. What is the Nano Unicorn Program? In venture capital parlance, a unicorn is an internet company which is valued at $1 billion plus. When you are valued at $1 billion, you are called a unicorn. India has about 26 unicorns until date, and more are getting added. Who are unicorns? These are companies like Oyo, companies like Ola, companies like Flipkart until they got taken over by Amazon. These are the unicorns. Okay. So we said India's progress, true progress, requires not just unicorns but nano unicorns. Tiny people will come out of a DDUGKY program, will come out of a ITI, will start a tiny business which in 15, 18, 24 months from the start will be able to get 1.5 additional jobs energized in that taluk or district headquarters. So you shift from self-employment to the capacity to generate employment. How do we do it? We basically tell a skill-trained young boy or a girl that if you had ₹1,00,000, what would you do with it? So the kid then, or the young man or woman I should say, writes what we call a dream sheet, one sheet of paper in your own handwriting. The kid writes, so what will the kid do with that ₹1,00,000? If we like the story, then we send the kid off for a 15-day intensive MBA program. Because a kid has a dream, kid has a skill, but kid does not know anything about sales and marketing, about how to open a bank account, what compliances to really look for. How do you do negotiation? How do you ask somebody for money? So in this 15-day intensive program, the kid not only receives the understanding of entrepreneurship, is able to learn from the peer group, and at the end we get a check of ₹1,00,000 signed from a philanthropic capital, not government money, so that we are not under CAG scanner and stuff like that. We don't have audit hassles, right? If that young man or woman is able to return that money after 1 year, pays no interest, and that money then goes to start another nano unicorn. This is what we call the Nano Unicorn Program. What we did is we set a goal to have a pilot with 100 kids. But the pilot ended up being 214. And at 214, now we have created a platform and asked through competitive bidding process an organization to come and run it for us with the charter that this will now go to 1,000 and next year will go to 3,000. Now you may say that this is a drop in an ocean. Okay? Yes, it's a drop in an ocean. And our goal here is not to be a banker or venture capitalist. Our goal is to just get 3,000 narratives. You start a company like Infosys, you start a company like, you start a company like Mindtree, you start a company like Ola. The difficulties of starting these companies in the beginning and starting a small welding shop, okay, on the outskirts of Tirupati are exactly the same. The challenges are the same. The requirements of entrepreneurial capability, resilience is the same. The need for support network is the same. The chances of failure is the same. So through this program, we actually want to harvest through a knowledge management system the narrative, the story, and then we'll bring that story back into the skill programs through ITIs and short-term skills. And then the kid is able to say, oh, there's somebody else who has walked this path before me, and if that person has been able to do it, I'll be able to do it. These are the mistakes that individual made, so these are the mistakes I need to watch out for. In addition, we have set up, keeping the eye on the future, we have set up an AR/VR incubator and skill development center at the IIT Bhubaneswar. The charter for this center is to be able to create not only AR/VR skilled individuals, but come out with AR/VR modules that can be used for skill development, not just in the traditional way, but also in some non-traditional ways. Say, for example, we train somebody as a sewing machine operator to go to Tirupur, and this child, like Mr. Satyanarayan was saying, has never ever stepped out of the village, comes to a DDUGKY center, gets trained, and next thing we do is put that child into a train and comes all the way to Tirupur, has no idea where Tirupur is. So through an AR/VR simulation that can be downloaded on her phone, she can see life in Tirupur. She can actually navigate her way. And one of the things about being Gen Z is that these are digital natives. Okay? They may not be educated, but they are able to use a smartphone much better than even I can use. So how can we bring in augmented reality and virtual reality modules into several training programs at the bottom of the pyramid to give them a very different level of understanding of what lies beyond their normal domain training. I'll pause here for a moment, and I can assure you that I'm coming towards the end of my presentation, so please don't feel restless. I hope I've not put you to sleep and you're still as fresh and awake as in the beginning. In the first part of the presentation, I said that as leaders, our job is to simplify. And when we simplified, we said we'll do three things. And when I talked about the three things, I told you two things succeeded, one thing failed. What failed was the setting up of the 8 advanced skill training institutes. In a state like Odisha, story will be similar in Andhra Pradesh, in many other states, about 1 lakh of kids come out from ITIs and polytechnics. And about 60% of those 1 lakh kids are not employable. They have not learned anything. But they're our kids. We can't just say that they didn't learn anything, they're useless. So what the government did was 4 or 5 years back, decided in collaboration with Asian Development Bank, this setting up of an advanced skill training institute in which the land, building and machinery will be funded by the government. And the private sector has to come and run that place. Okay. Because private sector cannot be expected to fund state-of-the-art equipment. If the kid doesn't know how to run a state-of-the-art equipment, will not get a state-of-the-art job. The bad news is that the private sector didn't come forward. The government was willing to bankroll, but the private sector didn't come forward, partly because they did not feel confident enough, and partly because this requires mobilization of a different kind, and this is long term. They rather do short term hit and run kind of skill development, not come back for the last 30% of the bill, okay, and still be able to generate a model by which you are making money. Okay. So easy money becomes an addictive thing. And whatever the reason, they didn't come. So what we did then is said that we are trying to outsource what we should be insourcing. Outsourcing is not always the solution. We have to insource. Number 2, we decided that instead of 8 advanced skill training institutes, we will insource. That means government will run and will create a too big to ignore world skill center. We'll build one center, but make it so big that it's difficult to ignore it. So what you see here is a 500,000 square feet building in the heart of Bhubaneswar. It's an 18-story building and there's a helipad on top. It's the only government building in the state capital of Bhubaneswar where there's a helipad. And this building will be housed to 8 manufacturing 4.0 kind of skills. It is being set up at that entire close to 1400 crores that was borrowed from Asian Development Bank for 8 is being pumped into this. And this World Skills Center will go on stream in the month of June or July. And to do this, we basically went to Singapore and got the blueprint for this from ITE, which I told you earlier is the Harvard or the MIT of skill development. But also what we did, skill development like DDUGKY has figured out is not about the blueprint, not about the how-to, it is about the soul. So you can't lift and shift an ITE into World Skills Center in Bhubaneswar. You need a transference of the soul. So what we did is we asked ITE to give us 5 expats, at the level of the principal and the 4 directors will come here for a duration of 2 years, extendable to 3 years. But during this period, we'll shadow them with 5 of our best skill training instructors who will eventually take over from them. The other thing that we are doing is we are using the idea of competition to the hilt. Young people want to compete. Young people want to, to prove that they can. So how do you bring in the power of competition to make it aspirational for young people? And how do you make it aspirational, skills aspirational in the eye of the society? For this, we are using a platform called World Skill Competition. Let me tell you a little bit about that. So World Skill Competition is the Olympic of the skill world. What Olympics is to athletics, World Skill Competition is to the world of skills. This program has been there for close to 50 years now. It's an international movement now. And once in 2 years, unlike Olympics which happens once in 4 years, once in 2 years World Skill Competition takes place. Last year it was World Skill 2019 which was held in Kazan in Russia, and 2021 it will move to Shanghai in China. To participate in World Skill there are 100 plus trades from bricklaying all the way to water technology. From plumbing all the way to web design. Okay. The only qualification required there is that the young man or woman should be less than the age of 23. Anybody can compete there. So for World Skill Competition 2019, we set a goal called Mission 123. We basically said that Odisha must be able to get 1 gold, 2 silver and 3 bronzes. It's very important because in 40 plus years of the World Skill Competition, close to 50, India until World Skill 2019 never got a gold. The first gold came to India in 2019 in water technology by a young man from the state of Odisha. But more importantly, at the state level, 5,000 kids competed. Of these 25 kids, some of them seen here, actually qualified to come to the regional level. Of regional level means 8 eastern states. And of these, then these 25 kids went to compete at a national level. At the national level, at India Skills 2019, Odisha emerged as the second largest medal tally winner, 2 steps behind, two medallions behind the state of Maharashtra. It's very important for us because until that, nobody took Odisha seriously. Nobody knew that Odisha has got anything to do with skill development. Beautiful saris, yes. Okay. Patachitras, yes. Lord Jagannath, yes. But, web design, no. Water technology, no. You never thought about, Odia boys and girls when it comes to, anything to do with sewing machine operations, even as 25% of Tirupur is actually an Odia girl. If 25% of the Tirupur population of Odia girls go away, a $7 billion industry will come to a standstill. But for that, we have to basically, conquer the cities. Like Mao Zedong said, you have to conquer the cities from the villages. We have to conquer the idea of skill development by looking at out of box thinking. So participating in the skill competition is one of those. So this is the kid Aswat Narayan who got the first ever gold for India in water technology. 2019 has just ended, and we ran 2019 on just 4 focus areas. One is we said that we'll take the ITI to the next level. Second, we will actually make the World Skills Center operational. Third, we said that we will scale up the Nano Unicorn program, which is very important to us. And last but not the least, we said that we will start preparation for World Skill competition in Shanghai for 2021. So with that, let me thank you once again for giving the opportunity. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So mesmerizing.
Sir, before you do that, I forgot something.
Yes, sir.
So yesterday I was at Tata Advanced Systems. Okay, I don't know how many of you know about Tata Advanced Systems. Raise your hand if you know. Okay. Yeah, so many people know. I'm very, very, very surprised. Probably because you are in Hyderabad. So Tata, has anybody gone inside Tata Advanced Systems? Probably not. So it was an eye-opener for me yesterday. It is a plant, super state-of-the-art plant, where they make, Apache helicopters for Sikorsky. They make Boeing bodies. They make aircraft engines, and they make Pilatus aircrafts, okay? Which is Pilatus, a Swiss aircraft manufacturer. Tata Advanced Systems has close to 5,000 people in 8 different locations, of which Hyderabad is number 1. As I'm moving around, they take me to a group of young girls who are getting trained there to make aircrafts, okay? Now, aircraft bodies are still made hugely through manual process, despite automation, because when you shoulder aircraft bodies, there are inaccessible parts which only a human hand can do. So these girls are getting trained there to do aircraft body manufacture. So I said, I was talking to the girls, I said, where are you from? What training did you take to come here? And you will be so surprised that they came here through a DDUGKY training program. You yourself may not be able to comprehend. So I said, DDUGKY does not train, DDUGKY trains people for SMO training, retail and hospitality. So what is the connection? So Tata Advanced Systems, likes the discipline, likes the mobilization, likes your whole packaging. And though you are training for IT, okay, ITES, they pick up those girls from there by giving them an additional test, okay, test of English and additional test that requires kinesthetic capability, because you require hand-eye coordination and you also require physical stamina and strength. So you have no idea what DDUGKY is doing. Okay? You are changing the narrative. And I have tweeted the picture of these young people today morning saying that, you should fasten your seatbelt and know that DDUGKY is producing kids who will make aircrafts for Boeing. So thank you very much.